ahead and hit record. Welcome to day one of the Quantum Leap Masterclass and Play Shop. Today is all about demystifying the quantum leap. I want to kind of let you guys know why I decided to create this play shop. So I was in conversations with a sweet woman who participated in the I Am Activation Challenge. And in our feedback call, I asked her what her favorite day and her biggest aha moments for the entire event. And she said that she had been on this consciousness journey for quite some time. There's lots of modalities that she's even trained in around energy, yet she said that the most productive day for her was the day when we discussed quantum leaps, when we discussed quantum mechanics, because she said that so many of those terms are things that she had heard from different teachers, different mentors of her own, yet she did not fully understand what they meant. What are these concepts, right? So I'm curious if you guys are like my sweet friend there who has heard these words. They're often huge buzzwords in our community, the word quantum, but what does it actually mean? How am I can't figure out who's unmuted here. Oh, here we go. It's unmuting all of you guys as you enter in. That's okay. Oh, I've got this. So here was the inspiration to birth this Quantum Leap Play Shop, my loves. And so if you have gotten to meet with me about the New Earth Ascension Academy, you know that in those conversations and in the entire webpage, I mention a quantum leap. And so it was really important for me to bring all of this esoteric. Some of it is incredibly esoteric and some of it is incredibly scientific. Where does physics and metaphysics meet? Where does physics and science and spirituality meet? How do we bring these together? And how do we quantum create? How do we create our reality, the life in which we desire to exist within, consciously and deliberately? And I firmly believe and deeply know that knowledge is empowering. It is empowering because it allows us to make choices and decisions that are for our highest and greatest good. So I love information, I love knowledge, and I'm going to go ahead and share our slide deck with you all today. We've got lots of slides that we're going to move through. And when I'm on this, oh, here we go. I can see the chat now. I was like, I can't see your chat. All right, my love. So today is day one. Today is the masterclass portion. Today is where we're demystifying the quantum leap. Tomorrow is day two. Tomorrow is the play shop portion where we're actually going to be putting practices into place to intentionally and deliberately create a quantum leap, or what I like to call a miracle in our own lives. So we're going to be here for about an hour and a half, both days. And if you desire to stay on for the Q&A portion, we'll open up the line for questions, comments, revelations, ahas, whatever wants to be shared. Just an opportunity to hear your voice and bring your voice into the container. So let's go ahead and let me try. There we go. All right, we are going to go ahead and create and open some sacred space, my loves. Everything is energy. We're going to get into that here today. And with that knowledge and information, we are going to collect our energy and allow ourselves to become grounded and present in this now moment. So if you are in a place and space to do so, I invite you to go ahead and close down your eyes, get your spine straight. Allow yourself to feel nice and grounded, legs uncrossed if you feel called to do so, feet firmly placed on the ground, and begin taking some deep breaths into your heart, into your body. Take the deepest, biggest breath that you have taken all day today. And with this intention, I invite you to call back all of your energy, all of your light, all of your consciousness, back from all time, space, realities, dimensions, peoples, and places. You can visualize a seed of light in your heart space that begins to act like a magnet as it draws all of your energy, all of your power, all soul fragments into your heart, into your being, as you anchor yourself into the here, now, present moment. Breathing into your heart, inviting your heart to open and expand even greater, even more. Inviting your heart and brain to enter into coherence, heart-brain coherence. And we're going to now bring that attention to your heart space. We're going to ground down, down, down now. So bringing that seed of light, your attention, your awareness down through your center line, out through your root, through the earth's many layers. We're going to work our way all the way to the center of Gaia, this beautiful crystalline core. And as you do, set the intention to ground, to anchor into the core of Gaia, allowing yourself to feel held, to feel grounded, to feel supported, and setting the intention to release anything in your field that is ready to be transmuted, that is not your own. Clearing your field fully, totally, and completely as you release anything that you've picked up back to Gaia to be transmuted by love and light into usable energy. We're going to ground and connect and anchor into the crystalline New Earth Ascension grid, connecting to the ley lines across the planet, the sacred sites across the planet, connecting to the elemental kingdom, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, connecting to the fairies, gnomes, sylphs, connecting to the beautiful dragons, the solar dragons, to inner earth, to the ascension portals, to the etheric temples, and to the solar sun disks across the planet. Coming back now to the center of Gaia, to the crystalline core. We're going to bring that energy back up now, up, up, up through the earth's many layers, up into your root chakra, opening, cleansing, clearing, and aligning your root, into your sacral, opening, cleansing, clearing, and aligning the sacral, into the solar plexus, opening, cleansing, clearing, and aligning the solar plexus, and up into the heart, anchoring here into the heart space, aligning all of the lower chakras with the earth's crystalline grid. We're going to anchor in multidimensionally now. So moving up, out through the center line, out the top of our head, we're going to connect to the sun, our sun star. We're going to go through the sun star portal to the Palladian central sun, to the Syrian great central sun, and then all the way to the center of Andromeda, to this beautiful crystallis star. We're going to anchor into this crystal star. It's okay if you don't know where this is. Your soul does, your I am presence does. So anchor here in multidimensionally to your 12th dimensional blueprint, connecting heart to your I am presence. Inviting your I am presence to open up the 12th dimensional gateway as you connect to the pre-matter fields of light and sound, connecting all the way to unity, to oneness, to the unified field, source, anchoring here into source, creating this infinite feedback loop of information, connecting back to source. Now bringing this energy back down with you through the pre-matter fields of sound and light, through the crystallis star, through the great central sun, the central sun, back to our sun star, now through the earth's atmosphere, down into your crown, opening, cleansing, clearing, and aligning your crown, Into your third eye, opening, cleansing, clearing, and aligning your third eye. Into your throat, opening, cleansing, clearing, and aligning your throat, and anchoring back into your heart. Aligning your upper chakras with the solar grid and bringing heaven and earth together in your heart space. Creating a connection, a rainbow light bridge between heaven and earth through your being, your body. Channeling pure white light all the way from source, all the way to the center of Gaia, and from the center of Gaia all the way back to source. We're going to set the intention to call in your higher self, your monadic self, and your I am presence to be closer to you now more than ever. Calling in your divine team, enlightened spirit, angels, guides, ancestors, galactic councils, ascension teams, any of these beings of love and light that you work with at soul level to be with us now and to create sacred space. Inviting in Mother, Father, Goddess, God, and the source of all love and light to create sacred space around our four-body system, around our room, and around this Zoom container, as we call in the highest divine support for our time here together. And we open ourselves up to receive all that is available for us here today. The information, the codes, the energy, the up-leveling. And if anything is not understood at an intellectual level, may we deeply know that we are receiving at an energetic level, and that these codes are being activated within every cell, every subatomic particle of our being, as we choose to become conscious and deliberate co-creators with and as source, creating our reality with and as source. Taking a deep breath into the heart. Whenever you're ready, you can open back up your eyes and come back. Coming back into the present now moment. All right, my loves, how do you feel? How do you all feel? Richie, my sweet, dear friend, I'm going to make you a co-host because I need support, if you don't mind. I know this isn't what we discussed, but if you don't mind letting people into the room, no one is muted on their way in. And so everyone's coming in unmuted. And so I would deeply appreciate your support if you feel called, if you see anyone in the room or unmuted. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, my loves, here we are. Here we are. Quick little daily overview, and then we're going to get into the content because there is a lot to go over today. A lot of interesting, fun things. Some stuff that I guarantee you're going to know. You're going to know and you're going to have heard, and hopefully you get to hear it in a different way. Hopefully it gets to be anchored, and all we're doing is building neural connections, neural pathways. So sometimes when we hear things over and over again, it hits just a little bit of a different way than when we heard it before. And it just is building those pathways so that we can move from information to embodied wisdom, which is really the goal here, because information is not enough, you guys. Information's great, but what we do with that information is what's important. So today is going to be really heavy on the information, and then we're going to do something with that information tomorrow. So today we're going to get into quantum physics, theories, principles, different studies. We're going to get into universal laws, principles of manifestation and creation, and we're going to get a little bit into consciousness and into metaphysics as well. Tomorrow, for the play shop itself, we are going to deliberately create a quantum leap. We're going to deliberately be creating a miracle in our lives. So we're going to have some home play that I'm going to offer at the end of today. So that way you can start tuning into what it is that you want to create in your life. We are at a really special time right now, you guys. Like this could not have been more perfectly timed, because we are at yesterday, if you know or don't know, yesterday was the spring equinox. The equinox energies are a polarity balance of lightness and dark. And it's in many traditions, the true new year. It's the astrological new year. Candidly, having a new year in the middle of winter doesn't actually make sense, does it? When you start thinking a little bit more logically around it, like we're planting seeds in, because the idea of new rebirth, we're planting seeds in December. So this is the true spring astrological new year. And so what we would normally do practice-wise to close out chapters, to close out energies, frequencies, contracts, all of that, and then to move into a whole new year, this is the time for that to actually happen and occur. So we are primed to truly manifest and create a new reality in our lives, to close out the chapters of 2022 and to truly move into a whole new vibrational reality for 2023. So tomorrow we're going to be doing a guided channeling exercise, divine decrees, EFT tapping to clear blocks. We're going to be working with breath and heart brain coherence, and then we're going to be going into a guided quantum leap visualization. So we're going to be doing all of the tools, practices that one would utilize to truly and deliberately create their reality. So let's get into physics. So physics, originating from the Greek translation, nature or knowledge of nature, is the branch of science that is concerned with nature and the properties of matter and energy. So the subject of matter of physics includes mechanics, heat, light, radiation, sound, electricity, magnetism, and the structure of atoms. So physics is a natural science that studies matter, its motion, behavior through space and time, and studies any sort of related entities of energy and force. So physics' main goal really is to understand how the universe behaves. So we're going to be studying, we're going to be talking about both classical physics and we're going to be talking about quantum physics. And we're also going to be talking a little bit about metaphysics. So what is metaphysics? Metaphysics is one of those words that's a little bit hard to describe and explain. It was first utilized by Aristotle, and when you break it down, the etymology, meta being above or beyond physics. So it's a division of philosophy that is concerned, and it is considered a philosophy. And if I can be candid with you, a lot of quantum physics is actually considered theoretical quantum physics, because it is the beautiful being that is Albert Einstein. He was huge on imagination. So what these theoretical physicists do is they use their imagination to think of probabilities or possibilities, and then they actually create studies of science to be able to prove or disprove. And that's really all that we're doing, right? I mean, over the last 100 years, since quantum physics has come into reality, since the 1600s, when physics really started having its heyday, I mean, that's really what we're here doing, is we're consistently testing new theories of reality. And so we're going to go through a lot of those here today. So the subject matter of metaphysics is first causes of things. So what has caused something? The origin and structure of the universe. So where did all of this begin? And it's about real nature, the real nature of time, space, laws of nature, and matter. So just as physics deals with the laws that govern the physical world, metaphysics describes what is beyond that, beyond the physical world, the nature and origin of reality itself, the immortal soul, and the existence of a supreme being. So when we get into metaphysics, metaphysics, again, being as broad as it really is around the subjects of consciousness, philosophy, religion, psychology, mysticism, even astrology, meditation, yoga, ESP, positive thinking, life after death, mysticism, reincarnation. All of these things is going to fall under that umbrella of metaphysics. And if you guys want to do any additional study, there is actually a group called the Institute of Noetic Sciences. It's called IONS, and they're doing some incredible studies in this metaphysical category to actually scientifically prove these theories, these ideas of spirituality. So it stands for, again, the Institute of Noetic Scientists. So it was actually founded by an Apollo astronaut, Dr. Edgar Mitchell. And if you've heard of him and his story, it's quite profound. He was sitting there in space, away from all the electromagnetic activity of Earth, of the planet. And he had a spiritual experience where he felt interconnected to all things. He knew he was not separate from any of reality, something like a psychedelic experience that one would have. And it was quite amazing for him, so much so that he came back and he founded the IONS. He founded the Institute of Noetic Sciences, which is really a multidisciplinary field of study that brings objective scientific tools and techniques together with subjective inner knowing to study the true nature of reality. And yes, it was shared in the chat by Sweet Tia that they've already begun to prove astral projection through studies. And yes, sweet Celestine, the FBI has already made tons of their studies public already. So again, really trying to break down, like, what is consciousness? What is the true nature of all reality? Where does it come from? How does it work? And that's what we're here to discuss a little bit more of today. And hopefully a way that helps it land and really solidify and truly make sense to you. Internal sense, so that you can understand it. So we're going to discuss, and we're really moving into this old versus the new paradigm, right? So when we talk about the old Newtonian paradigm, back in the 1600s, René Descartes, he was a scientist that essentially chose to divide the world into matter versus matter being science and mind being religion or consciousness. And the reason being is because the religious leaders at the time wouldn't let him do anything other than that. And so from that, psychology even began to separate physics and consciousness, separate nature and reality. And then here comes Newtonian physics, or what we know as classical physics, around 1665 was created. He even created calculus to be able to prove his theories. And we have, especially in the Western world, really anchored into this idea of Newtonian physics. And Newtonian physics is really this incredible materialistic worldview, this view that everything is made of matter, physical matter, and that the world is machine. It is mechanical, it's predictable, and that only matter is real. And because of that, you see how this is translated into our society, where I myself went down this path at one point where we become obsessed with material possessions. And we believe that material possessions are actually the foundation of happiness. So this idea of materialism is really founded from Newtonian physics. So when we move into this new paradigm, this quantum realm, we are able to realize that everything is not separate physical matter, but rather everything is energy. And not only is it energy, but it is also entangled and interconnected. We are no longer limited by linear time and space. This is something that we'll get into a little bit more, but why did I just blank on his name? Spooky reaction at a distance, right? Like this idea of of theoretical relativity or general relativity, that the fastest thing is the speed of light. And what quantum physics has shown us is that we are not bound by time and space, that it is actually instantaneous. All is here now. The Newtonian paradigm is about consciousness as a byproduct of the mind, that only matter is real. And now we're understanding that consciousness actually influences matter. In fact, it creates matter. And then again, the idea of the universe being a machine, mechanical and predictable, versus the quantum science is now proving, and many of the modern day quantum physicists are echoing these same sentiments, that the universe is sentient. It is consciousness. It is alive. It is full of information. And it is participatory. In other words, we are participating in the creation of reality. Newtonian physics show us that space is empty nothingness, whereas quantum physics is showing us that space is full of unlimited possibilities. Newtonian physics is showing us that we can only be in one place at one time, whereas quantum physics is showing us that we can be in multiple places at once. And then again, Newtonian is really about the separation of science, matter, and religion, spirit, versus the quantum is beginning to bridge all science, all spirituality, the physics and metaphysics. So these are the quantum concepts and principles that we're going to get into today. So we're getting into a lot, my loves. So we're getting into the concept of everything being energy, 0-point energy, atomic theory, wave particle duality, superposition, the observer effect, quantum entanglement, non-locality, quantum jump, 0-point energy, that was repeated, the unified field theory, parallel universes and timelines, and the holographic universe. So these are all quantum principles that are being studied and have been studied. And I say principles, but the difference between a theory and a principle is really it being proven. So, and sometimes principles and laws, kind of like the law of relativity around time and space, can be disproven. And that's really what science is constantly here doing. We create we create theories, and then they are scientifically studied through experiments. I really love this quote from Max Planck, who won a Nobel Prize, and he is known as the father of quantum physics. So Max shares, as a man who has devoted his entire life, I can't see this part, to the most clear-headed science, to the study of matter, I can tell you, as the result of my research about atoms, there is no matter as such. What we think is matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force that holds everything together. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter. And again, like this comes to the Hermetic principles of, and really, which we'll get into later as well, the, first law of reality, or one of the first laws of reality, that the all is mind, the all is consciousness, the all is sentient. So everything is energy. I think that in the spiritual community, we deeply know and understand this already, but at the smallest, so why though do we know this to be true? So at the smallest subatomic level, physical matter is not physical at all. What we perceive as physical matter is simply an illusion of energy and light. So it's energy and light that is slowed down to a vibrational frequency that it actually becomes visible. And at the core, atoms are but a series of electromagnetic fields that contain waves of particles that are emerging from a quantum field of possibilities. We'll get into the idea of wave particle duality in a bit, but you'll have a deeper understanding of what all of this means in the next 20, 30 minutes. So 0-point energy, if you were part of the I Am Activation Challenge, then I discussed and we utilize 0-point energy, and we're also always tapping into 0-point energy. So the atom contains 99.99% space. And again, it used to be believed that space was totally empty. It is not true. Now we have learned through science that there is enough energy in a single cubic meter of space to boil all the oceans in the world. In other words, space is not empty, but it is full of potential energy, possibility, 0-point energy. This is what the quantum field actually consists of. So the quantum field consists of this 0-point energy. So let's talk a little bit really quick about atomic theory. So just like anything else, like we learn more and more and more, and we get to have a clearer, more deeper understanding or understanding of what is truth of reality. So it used to be that there was this solid sphere model where they just thought that there were atoms. Then Plum, and the plum pudding model, I don't know why I get tickled by that. The plum pudding model, J.J. Thomson uncovered the electron. So now we understand that there's electrons. There's another piece or a particle or a part of the atom. And the nuclear model, we went to that the electrons are actually making orbits of some sort. And you'll see that this image, this nuclear model, is actually the image that we still see time and time again. I actually use that image throughout this entire slideshow as well. It's quite funny how science is still, like, our children, our nieces and nephews are being taught old, outdated science. And I think we know that, right? Like, we know that what's being taught in school is actually not real. It's not true. That school hasn't caught up to where science is at, and we have a deeper understanding of what's really going on here. So the next model was Niels Bohr, who came up with the planetary model representing Denmark. That's right, Joan. Yeah. And so he had this idea, and he recognized that electrons are actually orbiting, and he thought it was in a concentric specific orbit, kind of like what we used to kind of view and see the Earth-centric model, or even the sun-centric model, is these beautiful little perfect circles. And now what we've uncovered is, through the Schrodinger model, you may know him from Schrodinger's cat, that the locations of these electrons are not described, they are not definite, but instead they exist as a wave in a cloud, an orbital, which are these clouds of probability, and that they do not move in a set path per se, but as waves, and the position is quite unclear. So it's this model that we're actually utilizing and working with today. So I'm going to play this video. You may have seen it. This is Dr. Quantum, and he is fantastic. Let's see if I can just double click. Nope. Okay. Good thing I have it pulled up here. Let me see how I can just bring it over here. We're going to watch this video of Dr. Quantum. And the reason this experiment is so important for us to watch again and again and again, because I've seen this video so many times over the last 5-6 years, is that this experiment really demonstrates so many quantum concepts very eloquently. And
you see this app right here? It's called Audible. Using just this little app on my phone, I would...
Well, what they taught us in school isn't really the way it is. And that our senses are playing tricks on us. You just gotta wonder, what is this reality that we find ourselves in? Quantum physics says it's all just waves of information. Do I believe that? I hope so. Yikes. And here we are, the granddaddy of all quantum weirdness, the infamous double slit experiment. To understand this experiment, we first need to see how particles, or little balls of matter, act. If we randomly shoot a small object, say a marble, at the screen, we see a pattern on the back wall where they went through the slit and hit. Now, if we add a second slit, we would expect to see a second band duplicated to the right. Now, let's look at waves. The waves hit the slit and radiate out, striking the back wall with the most intensity directly in line with the slit. The line of brightness on the back screen shows that intensity. This is similar to the line the marbles make. But when we add the second slit, something different happens. If the top of one wave meets the bottom of another wave, they cancel each other out. So now there is an interference pattern on the back wall. Places where the two tops meet are the highest intensity, the bright lines, and where they cancel, there is nothing. So when we throw things, that is matter, through two slits, we get this, two bands of hits. And with waves, we get an interference pattern of many bands. Good so far. Now, let's go quantum. An electron is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble. Let's fire a stream through one slit. It behaves just like the marble, a single band. So if we shoot these tiny bits through two slits, we should get, like the marbles, two bands. What? An interference pattern. We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter through. But we get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. How? How could pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave? It doesn't make sense, but physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern. So they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they can interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron, leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other. Physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit it actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of two bands, not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently, as though it was aware It was being watched. It was here that physicists stepped forever into the strange netherworld of quantum events. What is matter? Particles or waves? And waves of what? And what does an observer have to do with any of this? The observer collapsed the wave function simply by observing.
Have you guys ever seen that video or
Why doesn't
seen
every home in Texas have solar?
Dr. Quantum? I love the simplicity of explanations of those videos. And so it really is so amazing. Thank you, Tia. Like, it is so absolutely incredible. So let's talk a little bit about what we just witnessed and what it's telling us in the realm of consciousness. Let me pull back my notes again. This double slit experiment is so much, and it's that's why it's so incredibly important that we really understand what's happening here. So let's talk about wave particle duality. So particles behave as a wave until observed. So what happened was they were shooting these particles through the slits, and it was creating an interference pattern. Whether it was a particle or a wave of light, it was creating the same interference pattern. So when they put an observer to observe what was actually happening and taking place to see which which slit it was going through, all of a sudden these particles or these waves began behaving as particles. So in other words, particles behave as a wave until they are observed. And we were saying earlier, the wave is potentiality. The wave is potentiality. And so as a wave, there is no definite properties. There is no definite place that they are existing within time and space, just a potential possibility. But then once observed, once consciousness was applied, the wave function collapses. And that's the terminology that they use in quantum science, that the wave collapses and one observable reality, a single particle, is revealed as a manifested reality. So this is wave particle duality. So then the idea of superposition, if you heard him mention superposition. So this is the ability of a quantum system to actually exist within multiple states at the same time until measured. So in quantum physics, when he showed the math that it's going through one of the slits, the left slit, it's going through the right slit, it's going through both slits, and it's going through neither slit all at the same time. This is the probability aspect. And so once you measure this particle, again, the wave function collapses and the particle then selects a state from that superposition. And then we move into the observer effect, which this is everything. This is by observation, by having consciousness or an observer actually look at the experiment, the measured results change. In other words, consciousness is what collapsed the wave function into an observable reality. So the observer is an essential part of the measurement process. In fact, reality exists as a probability until consciousness perceives this energy as physical matter. So what's really interesting, and I heard this many years ago, and it's the idea of, like, if a tree falls in the woods, like, and there's no one around to hear it, does it really fall? Like, is a sound really made? And it's kind of similar. And when you think about it this way as well, like, until we are observed by something that is conscious and sentient, then it's just a wave. So if there was nobody observing, let's say our home or our house, and it was out in the middle of the woods, is it really physicality, or is our home and all the items within our home just existing as a wave function until something conscious, whether that be an animal or, I mean, everything is conscious and sentient, but something of consciousness is actually observing that reality, observing that item or that thing or that person or that being, whatever that is. So I love this quote as well. We couldn't even imagine a universe that didn't contain us, because it's the act of observing the universe that makes it as it is. We're tiny specks of the universe looking at itself and building itself in a participatory universe. The act of us looking and searching and expecting to find something will always create something for us to see. And this is a professor at Princeton University. So again, we as conscious sentient beings are an integral part of all reality, and our observation of that reality is what collapses the wave function into what is experienced. Quantum entanglement. So when we look at quantum entanglement is when two or more particles are connected. In this entanglement process, the state of one particle affects the state of another instantaneously at any distance. So what they did is they entangled two particles and they sent them across the states, across the US. And anytime that they would measure one particle, it would exist in a wave state, right? And then the moment they would measure it, instantaneously, that particle that was across the US would show up in the inverse function. So often in quantum physics, they call it it's a spin state. So it's either spin up, spin down, spin up, spin down. So that's how they measure. So if they measured one particle here, let's say in Houston, Texas, and it was a spin down, the quantumly entangled particle, let's say it's over with Joan in Denmark, is going to be a spin up. And so Albert Einstein, he was a quantum physicist, a theoretical physicist, and he was vehemently against quantum entanglement. Like when I say against it, he didn't understand it. And because he didn't understand it, like he till the day he died, did not believe in non-locality. It was too much for him to fathom and understand and to piece together in his consciousness, in his being. So he called this spooky action at a distance. And the reason being is because it defied the speed of light, which was defined by his theory of relativity. So non-locality is explained by this instantaneous action or transfer of information. Instantaneous, beyond time and space. So consciousness is not limited by time and space. In other words, the separate parts of the universe are actually connected immediately. And so bringing this into an esoteric metaphysical understanding, my understanding and belief is that before the Big Bang, we're going to bring this idea of quantum entanglement and the interconnectedness of all things. We're going to bring this into two different understandings. The one being the law of one. The law of one being what I believe to be the only law that there is, and everything else being a principle that comes off of that particular law. But the law of one stating that the all is one and that the one is all. That the one infinite creator created of itself to know itself, and every shade of experience, reality, particles, light, sound was created, divided, and fractalized from the one infinite source creator to know and experience itself, and thus we exist. And so before the Big Bang, all of the universe was connected and existed as one. And through the law of one, all of the universe existed and is connected as one. And so we are interconnected with the one with the one through the unified field. And at the quantum level of our being, we are entangled and connected with everything that exists. These understandings really help us start to understand things like being able to project our consciousness to another person, another being, being able to communicate telepathically, being able to astral travel, being able to what was the terminology used earlier? Any sort of shade of metaphysics, any sort of understanding and idea begins to be explained through these laws, through these quantum concepts. Another way to look at, let me get into these. I love quotes, if y'all haven't noticed. And because again, they're coming from these physicists that are, one would say, again, science and spirituality are completely separate, yet we have these incredible minds that are now merging the two very eloquently. So quantum physics, Fred Alan Wolf, he says, quantum physics says that you can't have a universe without mind entering into it, and that the mind is actually shaping the very thing that is being perceived. Werner Heisenberg, he says that the atoms or elementary particles themselves are not real. They form a world of potentialities or possibilities rather than one of things or facts. My favorite is Erwin Schrödinger, who said quantum physics thus reveals a basic oneness to the universe. And then lastly, Kevin Michael, he said the nature of the collapse of the wave function is determined by our self-concepts stored in the subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind is aware of the many worlds occurring simultaneously and chooses the reality we continue to exist in based on our self-concept. So we'll really get into that a little bit more tomorrow, right? What is our self-concept? What is our beliefs? What perceptions? How do we view reality? So this holographic universe. So do you guys remember those bookmarks? What is the name of there was these holographic bookmarks. I can't remember the name of the company that we used to have as girls when I was a little girl, and they were holographic, they were sparkly and bright, and they looked 3D. And so how holographs work is if you were to take that bookmark and you were to cut it in half, you would still see that full holographic image in the whole. And if you were to keep cutting it into smaller and smaller pieces, those smaller pieces contain the full image that was the original full image. So it's this idea that the pieces contain the information of the whole. So when we think of a holographic universe, it says that even though the particles aren't physically together, that their energy is connected because the particles are entangled in a field that is holographic. So in other words, the quantum field is holographic. So in a hologram, what happens in one place happens everywhere simultaneously. And every independent particle contains the information of the entire pattern. So sometimes the second particle has an experience, and this was actually studied as well, like sometimes the particle has an experience before anything even happened to it, because all of the information is contained in both particles and they are connected in that field. So if you have ever, there's actually some studies that have been done where they flash images of positive, happy things and like really negative, kind of jarring things. And as they were flashing these images on a screen, they would flash every, few seconds or so. They actually could study the emotional response in the people before the images flash. So the actual emotional response of the energy of these people was actually reflected seconds before the image was shown. So again, this is the idea that this is similar to this idea that something can be impacted or affected before the thing that is impacting it or affected it has even actually occurred. So this is the idea again of our quantum holographic universe. So every independent particle contained in the hologram reflects, mirrors, and contains the information of the entire pattern, meaning every cell in our body is coded with the blueprint of the entire universe, with the blueprint of source. And because the information in our cells is holographic, all dimensions of energy and consciousness can be accessed and configured directly from within our being. And we're going to learn more about how. So quantum field, the quantum field is the field itself, the field with which all these particles are emerging and dissolving into. So all atoms are coming in and out of observable reality. So atoms are constantly emerging from the pulses of the quantum field of possibility. So again, this field, this space, 99.9% space within an atom, which is the field itself, it not only precedes matter, but it forms matter. So all physical reality is birthed from this vibrational field of information. And this vibrational field we cannot see, but it is full of information. It's full of light, sound, sacred geometry. If you see the study of cymatics shows us how vibration forms and shapes physical reality and matter. And so this field, these electromagnetic fields of geometry, of sound, of light is what's actually forming, shaping, and birthing matter into reality. So when we look at the parallel universe theory, or parallel universes are what they call the many worlds theory. This says that every quantum measurement causes the universe to split into multiple parallel realities. And each timeline or universe corresponds to a different possible outcome. So in other words, the reality that you desire to be living exists right now. But to observe it in the now moment, all you have to do is perceive a different frequency or bandwidth. And so how is this done? This is done by raising our energy. It's done by expanding our consciousness. It's done by cultivating profound amounts of energy and communicating with the quantum field or quantum fabric of all reality in a way that we are choosing, consciously and deliberately choosing the experience or outcome that we want to experience. where did we go here? Okay, here we go. So quantum jump. A quantum jump is when an electron instantaneously jumps from one orbit or energy level to another without occupying the space in between. So this is the definition of a quantum jump from quantum physics. So, and this is the original, what they call the original OG of quantum weirdness, if you will, this idea of the quantum jump, meaning that there are orbitals that are of energy bandwidth, and a particle will show up here and then show up there instantaneously, 0 time space overlap, instantaneous. So electrons, they emit photons of energy to vibrate lower, and they absorb photons of energy to jump higher, to a higher and faster orbit. So what does this tell us? This tells us that to make a quantum jump, it requires a large amount of energy from the environment, which is why we are cultivating energy, consciousness, and vibrating higher through choosing thoughts, beliefs, the electromagnetic frequencies within our quantum computer that is our being that interfaces with the quantum fabric of reality. We are choosing and utilizing and cultivating energy to create a quantum leap or a quantum jump in our reality. So time, we know, is an illusory and really an experimental within this time-space reality of the Earth experiment. It's an experimental construct of the mind and body. And so really and truly, all possibilities exist in the now moment. Quantum leap. So they call quantum jumping, it's called quantum jumping in quantum physics. But when we talk about it in the metaphysical spiritual realm, we call it a quantum leap more often than we do a jump. So in spirituality, a quantum leap is a huge and often sudden increase or advance in something. It's an abrupt and dramatic change. It is a great improvement or an important advance in something that we're experiencing. And we can create a quantum leap in our own reality by cultivating a field of higher vibrational energy through the heart and focusing on our desired observable outcome. So we can quite literally reach into the quantum potential of the divine matrix, and we can isolate a specific possibility. That's why we use our imagination, visualization, and also cultivate the feeling of it being, of having it in the now moment. Because through that, we are choosing, deliberately and consciously choosing the reality we want to experience. And that then we collapse the waves of possibility and the particles of reality, and it shows up and manifests in our life. So it starts to just make so much more sense. I see Joan says, like DNA, precognition, are you talking about vortex? I just saw your chat, so I'm not sure what you're talking about with the vortex aspect there, but yes. Shared consciousness and dreams too. Yes, the quantum field. The quantum field is like, you could say it's a vortex for sure. But to me, a vortex, I actually literally see a vortex is as a swirling container of energy, whereas the quantum field is the fabric of all reality. And we can create a vortex within the quantum field, which is what we were doing during the I Am Activation Challenge, is we were going into the quantum field within the portal of our heart, and we were creating a container within that quantum field for us to perform deliberate, conscious quantum creation activities within. So let's talk a little bit about the principles of our universe. We're not going to get into all of these. I will be getting into these in much greater detail within the New Earth Ascension Academy, which is the 6-month Ascension Accelerator, Group Ascension Accelerator. But why does it matter? Like, why do these laws of reality matter? Why did the laws of quantum physics matter? Why do we care? Why should we care? And the real reason is because I've used this analogy before. It's like playing a video game or a board game. And when you first get started, you don't know the rules of the game and you're not very good at it. And it might be a little bit fun, but it's not as much fun as it could be if you knew the rules of the game, if you were experienced. And so these are the rules of the game, guys. Like, these are the rules of our reality. These are the laws, the principles that govern our reality. And so when we begin to understand how they work, why they work, we can then move from information to embodiment and actually get them to work for us. So if you want to become a conscious, deliberate creator of your reality, which is why we're here, this is a playground. This is an earthly playground, a beautiful divine earth experiment that we chose to incarnate into. And these laws, these principles were deeply known to us in the different initiate schools, the mystery schools that existed. And the reason that we had to learn this information in mystery school settings was because it was esoteric and it was hidden and it was at one point well-known information and knowledge, but with the change of density on this planet, beings that wish to have power and control over humanity started killing out the lineages of us for believing and knowing this information. We were burned as witches for knowing this type of information. And so now we are remembering how to utilize, we're just remembering this information, but we're remembering how to utilize this information. So this is how we become a powerless victim of our life circumstances to a self-empowered master of our own internal technology. We are quantum beings. Quantum principles apply to the entire fabric of reality, the entire fabric of existence. Even though quantum itself is a study of the smallest particles of existence, as above, so below, as within, so without. Everything is a fractal. So these also apply to us. So we are quantum beings. We are quantum computers. We are the most perfect technology that has ever existed. However, we've forgotten how to use the technology that is our being. We've forgotten how to use our own internal technology. So when we look at these, I shared with you guys the law, what I believed, and this is what, if you actually are familiar with the law of one channeled text, it's actually shared by the raw group that the only law that exists is the law of one, and that everything else is a principle. It is a fractalization of this one law. So if we are all one and we are not connected and we are not separate and we are interconnected, then these principles start to make sense. And I created this image because my brain today is all over the place. Matthias Stefano, in one of his episodes, he shares how each of the laws actually corresponds to a chakra, because the law of one, the all is one, the one is all, then becomes fractalized. We can view the law of divine oneness as the white light, And then when you shine that white light through a prism, it creates all of these different colors. And all of these colors are bandwidths of information. And so each one of these principles is a bandwidth of information that we're tapping into. And as we begin to learn how to work with each of these chakras, opening these chakras, we're, as a result, also working with these principles. So the Hermetic principle of everything is mind. And I changed it to the principle of consciousness. And that's my own thing, because what I'm sure you guys can relate to this. Consciousness is not bound to the brain. It's not. It's the heart. It's the brain. It's our entire energetic system of who we be. It's the four-body system of the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies. So to me, consciousness is everything. So saying it's just the law of mentalism is limiting to me. So I expanded that to the principle of consciousness, or the law of consciousness. And that's the crown. So then we have the principle of correspondence. That's that everything is a mirror, the third eye. So as above, so below, as within, so without. Everything is a mirror, which makes sense when you think of the law of one, the fact that everything is mind. Whatever is being manifested here is going to be manifested and attracted external to us as well. Moving into the throat chakra, the principle of vibration. Everything is vibration. Everything is vibrating. Everything is moving. Nothing is stationary. Moving into the heart beats like a rhythm, right? So the principle of rhythm, everything is ebbing and flowing, in and out, in and out. This is why we experience kind of like the seasons. We experience emotional and energetic highs, and then we experience lows and highs and lows, because we are contracting, expanding, contracting and expanding. And this is what we are meant to do, just like a heartbeat. And then the principle of cause and effect. For every cause, there is an equal and opposite effect, equal and opposite reaction. So everything that we do has an impact on our reality. Everything that we think, we say, has an impact on our external reality. And then we get into the sacral, which is the principle of polarity. And as a sub-manifestation of that is the principle of gender. They are separate. They are not the same. Polarity is the idea of we are now subdividing the one into light, dark, into this dualistic reality that we're existing in here on this during this divine earth experiment. And then we get into the root chakra, which is the principle of Genesis, which is simply stating that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It simply exists and can be transmuted into, all energy is being transmuted and recycled. So you'll notice that the law of attraction isn't even in here. But when you understand what the law of attraction is about, you recognize it and see it as a sub-manifestation of these laws, of these principles. So these are the principles of our universe. This is the rules, the laws, the rules of the game. And when we learn what they are, then we in turn learn how to utilize them for our greatest and highest benefit. That's when we become masters of our reality. I don't know about the 4 agreements, Joan. She's sharing that the solar plexus is connected to cause and effect, but in the 4 agreements, it says that cause and effect doesn't exist. I don't agree. I do not agree. The principle of cause and effect is a law of our reality. So I don't know why they would claim that that doesn't exist, but that is not, that's not in my experience, and that's not what I've learned, and that's not what I internalize as my truth. And again, it makes sense when you tap into the idea of principle of vibration. I'm curious as to how he could even justify that the principle of cause and effect doesn't exist. So I don't have anything to say on why he would believe that, but I do not find that to be my own truth personally. Thank you for bringing that forward. Let's get into consciousness now. Native American tribe. He said that a Native American tribe didn't believe in it. Yeah. And that's his choice. That's the beauty of this existence. And maybe I should have prefaced this at the beginning, and that was my intention, and my apology for not doing so. My energies have been funky, you guys. This energy of the equinox and the new moon, and I mean, energies have been wild. I'm sure you can all relate and imagine. And so my energy has been off the last few days. I was a little nervous having this masterclass in Play Shop because I want to be like at 150% every single time I'm delivering. And I haven't felt that way. So thank you so much for accepting the realness of where my energy is right now. It's the electromagnetic storms that we have been experiencing, the solar flares, the Schumann resonance. I mean, everything is off the charts right now. There's lots of timeline shifts that are happening. New timelines are being anchored. And any time we're connected into those older timelines, we are disconnecting and we're doing away with and allowing things that no longer serve us, soul contracts that we are done with, all of these, we're in this phase of closing out so that we can tap into the new and what we want to create and where we're moving forward. So if your energy has been wild, you're not alone. I am getting messages from people daily around what they're experiencing and just feeling really heavy right now. So you're not alone if you're feeling that heaviness. And that's, again, that law of rhythm, the in and out, the ebb and the flow. And so oftentimes that it's the contraction before the expansion. And so if you're feeling really heavy on the contraction, like deeply know and be confident though that expansion, this massive expansion is coming, is around the corner for you. So now when we tune into consciousness, thank you, Joan. High level solar flare just a few days ago. Yeah, there's a lot of energy moving, shifting, anchoring, and it can be overwhelming. So thank you all for being here and being a beautiful soul of service and devotion to the all, and devotion to our collective ascension, and playing your part in this journey that we're all on collectively. So when we get into consciousness, so consciousness, my love, like, okay, yay, quantum concepts. How does this relate to consciousness, the metaphysical? Like, what does this mean for you and I? So how you interact with the quantum field, from where all things manifesting come from, the belief, the expectation that you hold is what determines the reality that you create. It's not desire alone. It's not thoughts alone. If we everything we thought manifested immediately, which is the old law of attraction, kind of fallacy, if you will, that thoughts become things. Well, yes, and it's more than that. It's so much more than just thoughts becoming things. It requires the alignment, energetic resonance, the belief, the expectation, all of these other aspects to actually manifest thoughts into our reality, or desires into our reality. So the field is responding to the electromagnetic energy that is generated from your thoughts. Your thoughts are electric, your brain and your emotions are magnetic. So your neurons, and we now know that neurons exist in our heart and our solar plexus, not just in our brain, and that our heart is actually generating and sending more information to our brain than our brain is sending out to the rest of our being. So our neurons are antenna, tuning into this field, communicating with this field. So everything that you think, everything that you believe, do, say, or feel is being communicated into this quantum field and is instructing it. And you are always in communication with this field. What I love though, and this feels so much better for me and my nervous system, and you can let me know if this feels better for you, is that we can't make anything happen. In fact, we don't have to make anything happen, because with what we've learned about quantum mechanics and physics is that all timelines and possibilities already exist. They already exist in the here and the now. And so we are simply choosing by how we interface with this field, with the matrix. Through our thoughts, our beliefs, our expectations, and our words, we are choosing how we interface by our energy output. And when we put our intention on a particular outcome, this is what collapses all the other possibilities. So we can reach into the quantum potential of the divine matrix and isolate a specific possibility. And that's collapsing the particles, collapsing the wave into an observable particle. So quantum leaping or jumping is really just a changing of your consciousness, of your conscious state, to a different reality than what is currently being experienced, by applying and supplying enough mental and emotional energy and clearly tuning into the desired chosen possibility that you desire. So consciousness changes, we make the consciousness changes, and then reality is reflected, is manifested as a result. We do the work internally first, and then our external world falls in line. Yes, we do have neurons in our solar plexus as well. We do. In fact, if you go through the gene keys, Joan, they talk about, he often in many different keys mentions that the intention of our of the new earth human is to actually move from the majority of our thinking capacity happening from our brain into our solar plexus, which is such an interesting thing, because I've always thought it would be into our heart, but he's often discussing the movement of the brain into the solar plexus as the main energy center in which we are thinking through, which I've been curious to get into that a little bit deeper, but I find that fascinating. And yes, neurons are in our heart, they're in our brain. And what I love this visualization, and this is what I believe to be true, is that we are like the neurons of the planet. The cells of the planet are the neurons of the planet. because we are constantly communicating information. We're receiving information from heaven and from the earth, and we're communicating it through our energy field out into reality. And so we are essentially the neurons of Mother Gaia, of Mama Gaia. Creating these energetic pathways to receive and transmit information to the other neurons of the planet as well. So let's get a little bit into the principles of deliberate creation. And I'm going to run through these fairly quickly, and we're going to get into some of these more tomorrow. Let me pull up. I did a really awesome masterclass like 2 years ago on these principles that I have some notes on. So we first start with desire. Desire is the first step of all creation, the very first step of all creation. Without desire, nothing happens. It's the catalyst that awakens our highest qualities, our greatest human potential, our fullest spiritual power. So every desire that you have is a divine impulse that is being transmitted to you from your divine self. And I say that, I take that back. Like it's important to decipher between your ego's desires, because your ego is going to have a set of desires based off of the programming and conditioning that you've experienced as a human up until this point. Your ego may say, I want $1 million. I want $1 million. And your higher self's like, no, you really don't. You really don't want $1 million. Like, what are you going to do with $1 million? So our ego may say, I want this car. And your higher self is like, no, you really don't. That car is not going to be what's best for you. You really want this car over here. So I say that every desire is a divine impulse, but this is where tuning into and learning how to listen to our heart, learning how to decipher between the multidimensional aspects of our being, and to tune into both our intuitive intelligence, our higher divine knowing, and tuning into, is this ego-based and ego-driven? And there's ways to determine, is this ego-based, is this driven, or is this truly an impulse from my higher self? So most of these soul-based desires, they're being transmitted to you because an aspect of God wants to experience more for you, with you, through you. Our desires are a force that is calling us forward, that are quite literally activating our journey of becoming. So these desires are born within us to lead us to realize something, to experience something, to experience more of our greatness, more of our potential, more of our unique gifts. So there's a deeply divine purpose to desire. This whole idea that desire is the root of evil, or that we need to transcend all desire is not why we came here. We came here, if we wanted to transcend the ego, transcend the physical body, this idea of transcendence, then we would have never come to have a physical experience. We're actually meant to integrate the physicality. We're meant to work with desire. We're meant to become conscious creators within this matrix reality, not get upset and angry that we're in this illusory reality and say, well, I'm not participating. I'm not going to play this game. No, we're here to play the game. We're here to participate. We're here to create. And who better than you, than us, than the conscious people that are here in service to all sentient beings? We are meant to own our materialistic nature. We are meant to learn the laws of creation and master them so that we can create a reality that is for our highest and greatest good and the highest and greatest good of all involved, because we are the heart-centered people that are truly here to serve. So we need to own our desires. We need to own our materialistic nature. We need to own it and become conscious, deliberate, and powerful creators within it. That's why we're here. This is the path of the new human. So we must own the powerful aspect of desire. The next is the principle of alignment. So these are the principles that branch off of all of creation, that branch off of the law of attraction. Like the law of attraction, we know, again, is not enough. In fact, I like to say it's the law of resonance. And that's really what we're working with here rather than the law of attraction. We are wanting to be in resonance with, an alignment with, a vibrational frequency match to the reality that we want to experience. So we need to get into alignment. Alignment is when things are lined up in harmony, when they're in resonance with each other. Alignment is when we are broadcasting thoughts, emotions, beliefs, expectations that are an energetic match to the reality we want to experience. This is where often we get hung up, where we say we want one thing, but there's part of us that is not in a vibrational frequency match for that experience. This is what I've called before. These are our internal glass ceilings. We only can go this high. We only can go far this far. So similar, like using the $1 million example, like you can say you want $1 million all day, every day, and you can focus on this religiously every morning. This become part of your morning routine, and you may never manifest $1 million in your life because you may have beliefs inside of you that say, I'm not worthy of $1 million. I don't have the space to hold $1 million. Like, I don't trust myself with that much money. You may have beliefs that are like money are the root of all evil, like these program conditioned beliefs that are keeping you from experiencing that a reality. So it's not so simple as our thoughts become things, our desires, we just get to choose. We also have to do the inner work. So when we choose a reality, when we say, this is what I desire, it is inevitable that things, beliefs, thoughts, patterns, or that expectations that are not in alignment with that are going to reveal itself to you. Do not ignore that. Do not ignore that. Because the moment that you set your attention and your focus on a desired reality that you want to create for yourself, your ego is going to come up with all of the objections, and it's going to reveal, like, this is the way, these are all the places and spaces that we're not in alignment with that, as an opportunity for you to dig deeper and clear out those beliefs and choose differently, to go deeper into those stories of unworthiness and to really say, okay, where did these start? At what age did I start feeling unworthy? What happened? Was this my belief, or this is my parents'? Is this society's beliefs? And what do I want to believe instead? What do I choose? So this is where the alignment is a huge piece and a huge key to quantum leaping and to quantum creation. We can't create a reality. And if we do, you may create that $1 million, but it may come into your field and it may be out of your field in 3 months, and you're not going to even know what happened to it, because you don't have the ability to hold on to that, because there's still something inside of you that's not in resonance with you holding on to, similar to like a romantic partner. You may call in a romantic partner, the right person may come into your field. I say the right person, I believe that it's the right person to teach you in a lesson, but you may call the right person into your field. And, after a few months, that person, things are friction and they're out of your field again, because you may have thought you were ready for that divine partnership, but there's parts of you that maybe weren't quite yet there. So then when we get into the third principle, the principle of focus. So what are you going to focus on? Are you going to focus on the lack, on the fact that the thing that you want is not in your life? Or are you going to focus on the fact that it's coming, being excited for what's to come, what's to manifest? Our ego is quite literally trained to scan for problems, to watch out for competition, to watch out for anticipate threats. And this causes us to focus on our limitations. It causes us to focus on our past failures. I mean, think about it. How often do you find yourself focused on what you don't want rather than what you do want? That's what our ego does. It focuses on what we don't want. We even use that in the way we talk to children. Don't jump on the couch. Don't do that. Don't. Rather than saying, hi, sweetie, I would prefer it if you sat on the couch or jumped on the floor. Options. Focusing on what we do want. How often do we focus on how a situation went wrong rather than how it went right? That's our ego. That's what it's programmed to do. So when we understand that we can choose to focus on the abundant nature of reality, the abundant nature of the universe, or we can choose to focus on the lack of what we don't see in our life. We can choose to direct our attention to the desires, what we desire's absence, being out of our life. Bye-bye, love. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. We'll see you tomorrow. So you can focus on the feeling of wanting, of missing, or worrying about your desires. Or you can focus on the sensation of already having it. You can use the power of your focus to look beyond what currently is in your life and towards the reality that is in the process of coming into being. So let's go now to the principle of joyful expectancy. The law of attraction, the laws of the universe, the laws of creation do not bring us what we want. They bring us what we expect. Expectation is more powerful in summoning and directing energy than any actions we take. So if you are worrying, if you are doubtful, then you're actively planning for your failure. But if you're eager and you're excited and appreciative, thank you, thank you, thank you, then you are using your creative power to plan and create a positive future outcome. As you believe, so you create. So we create from our own beliefs of what is possible and probable, which is why I love quantum physics so much, because everything is possible, everything is probable. And when we have like a scientific understanding that everything is possible, when we start shattering our old, outdated paradigms and we start opening ourselves up into the quantum realm of unlimited possibilities, and we stop closing ourselves off from the miracles and magic of that are awaiting us. So we're going to get into this tomorrow, because there's lots of parts of us that don't believe that a quantum leap or a miracle is possible, or that we could create that doesn't believe that we're worthy of a quantum leap or a miracle in our life. So how can we break through those beliefs and tap into this field of joyful expectancy? So we're going to work through that tomorrow. The principle of having. So the state of wanting, yearning, or needing something is created out of the perception that what you desire is separate from you. While the feeling state of having comes from the experience of being in complete alignment with what you desire. What I love so deeply is that the law of divine oneness, or practicing unity consciousness, helps alleviate this problem. Because when you're consistently tapping into unity consciousness, consistently tapping into the field that you are everything, and then you deeply are, you're tapping into the frequency and energy of lacking nothing. You lack nothing because you already are everything. So when you're in a consistent practice of unity consciousness, consistently reminding yourself that you have everything that you desire and require, you are everything that you desire and require, then it helps alleviate that stress, that anxiety, that state of desperation or neediness that actually pushes away and blocks us from receiving what we really desire in our life. So the moment that you redirect your attention from what is missing and move into the presence of abundance and appreciation, then you shift your feeling state from wanting to having, from becoming to being, from striving to allowing. And the reality is there's always going to be a gap, always going to be a gap from where you are and where you want to be. And let's be real, like the moment that you get what you want, you have new desires that are cultivated. Like, I want to create my own soul-aligned business. Awesome. Okay, you got it. Now what do you want within that? I want to create a program. Awesome. You got that. Now what do you want? Like, you're always going to have desires. In other words, there's always going to be a gap, because we're always improving, striving, wanting more and greater experiences for ourselves. So there will always be a gap. Let's get comfortable with that gap. Let's not see that gap as bad or as frustrating, but instead to recognize that it's always going to be there. And we can close that gap by tapping into not what we want, but why do we want it? Why do you want the soul-aligned business? Why do you want a spiritual divine union partnership? Why do you want greater health for your physical body? Why do you want these things? And when you connect to the why, you start connecting to the feeling that you're really searching for. You want the soul-aligned business because you want fulfillment. You want to feel fulfilled. You want perhaps prosperity. You want to feel good about giving back to the world. You want the divine union partnership because you want to feel loved and accepted exactly as you are. You want to feel safe. So when you tune into the deeper why of what you desire, you're tuning into the feeling state, and that's really what you want. You want happiness, fulfillment, joy, bliss, and all of those feelings are available to you right now in the now moment. And when we tune into the quantum mechanics of reality, it actually exists right now. On a different timeline or parallel world or parallel reality, however you want to phrase it, it exists. It just exists at a higher frequency than what you're currently existing at. So it already exists here and now. So when you close down your eyes and you think about what you really desire and you get into the feeling state, you can feel gratitude. All of those feelings are available to you right now. And we know that gratitude is one of the fastest ways to ignite the feeling of having. Gratitude, such a powerful and potent tool and frequency. And when we get into a gratitude, we're in a feeling state of sufficiency. I've got all I need, I'm good. And when you're in that state of already having, then you're not in a state of needing or wanting, and you're not pushing your desire away from you. So remember, you're already one with source. You are already one with the infinite supply of everything that you could possibly desire. And so by aligning your divine identity, by aligning with your divine identity as source, aligning with your I am presence, you align with the truth and the feelings of already being a complete and whole being. And any desire that you focus on manifests easily and effortlessly when you come from that place of already being and having all that you desire and require. So the next principle is the principle of loving. So love is the fuel. It's the fuel of everything, guys. It's the fuel that drives every act of creation. Love is the purest vibration. And it transmutes all frequencies. So the moment that you have a heartfelt desire come to you, a relationship with that desire was created. And so is your relationship burdened with doubt, frustration, and disappointment that it hasn't yet been fully realized? Are you in the are you loving the process of creation? Like, can you fall in love with the process of creation? Can you fall in love with the gap? With this process of becoming? Because it's not the journey, it's the journey, it's not the destination. It's really not the thing that we receive that's going to make us happy. I hate to break it to you. Happiness is an inside job. And so getting the thing, experiencing the thing is not going to make us happy. It's who we become in the process. So can we fall in love with the creation process? Can we fall in love with the process of becoming who we are becoming by seeking those desires? Can we fall in love with it? Bye, Emily. Thank you, sweetness. We will be wrapping up here soon enough as we move into our activities for tomorrow. So moving into the principle of surrender. It's so deeply important for us to surrender. Surrender our need to figure out how. Surrender our need to figure out all of the details, because the details are not your responsibility. They're not your responsibility. And so when you surrender the need to figure out how, who, what, when, where, that your desires are going to manifest, and instead place your attention on aligning to the essence or feeling of having your desires, that is the key. This is knowing, trusting, and having faith that all is unfolding for you in perfect divine order and perfect divine timing. There's no need to push, manipulate, or plan. You just trust the universe, trust your divine self, and continue to stay focused. Continuing to stay focused on and visualizing and tuning into the frequencies of the reality that you want. So your desires are not going to always manifest the way that you envision. In fact, we can deeply know that some of the greatest gifts are delayed or unanswered prayers. Have you ever had that happen to you? Where you really deeply wanted something and it didn't happen, and then something better came around the corner and you're like, oh, okay, that's why that didn't happen. That's what happens. Like, it's never going to. I had an experience that I've shared in the I Am Activation Challenge exactly around this, where I thought I wanted to work for a particular employer. I created a mind movie. I did like, I created a bunch of visuals with like my name on their website and like the office that I would be driving to. And I would just watch this mind movie and visualize myself getting this job, signing the contract, you know, my information being on their website. And I was so drilled into working for this particular company. And my spiritual team later was like, you know, you were limiting yourself because that was not the company you were meant to work for. But you were so rigid and thinking that that's how, this is how the path of your happiness. And you could have manifested the right opportunity sooner, which eventually I did manifest. It was the exact same looking building, the exact same money that I wanted. Essentially, it was exactly what I was trying to manifest for myself in this other job. But I was so drilled into it being this particular company. For a year, I tried to manifest working for this company. And then I get a totally different job, and Spirit's like, yeah, this was really what was best aligned for you. But because you were closing yourself off to possibilities, you were so rigid. So it's also important to recognize, like, what are obstacles? Like, obstacles are not like wall. If we hit an obstacle on our path, do you see it as an obstacle? Do you see it as a wall? Like, oh, well, this isn't going to happen now. This is never going to happen. This is, there's too many things stacked up against me. Or instead, do you see this as something that's manifesting so that you can learn from it? Perhaps there's a skill set or some insight that you're being called to hone. Perhaps you're going to need this skill set or this insight once your desire has manifested. Or do you see these external obstacles to your desire and ask, what can I learn from this? What is this teaching me? Can you see this as simply perhaps it's putting you on a better detour path towards what you want? So it's just so deeply important that we remember where our heartfelt desire came from in the first place, as sparks from our divine self wanting to be ignited and experienced through us. So when we surrender, knowing that we're not manifesting and creating this on our own, that it's we, it's not me, it's we, the universe is manifesting and creating this for and with me and by me. So the last principle to manifest and create at a quantum level is the principle of action. You'll notice that everything up into this point is non-action. I mean, it's action, but it's more internal than it is external, right? It's all internal action. Like choosing what you want to create, believing in yourself, feeling it here in the now moment, visualizing it, trusting in yourself. Like all of that is internal. Only at the very last step do we get to the principle of action, where we are actually externally doing something. We often get confused in the manifestation creation realm by thinking that we always need to be doing the things, but sometimes the doing is the internal action that's being asked of us. We're only meant to take external action when we're inspired to do so. Inspired action, meaning we feel an internal impulse inviting us to take that action. Like a masterclass popping up in our box and, you know, an offer being made. And we're like, yeah, I'm meant to get on the phone with that person. Or we are trying to create and manifest our life partner, our divine union. And we don't know why, but we feel called to go to some event. That we don't go out and hop on. I mean, maybe you do, and that's okay too. But, you know, we don't go and download all of the different dating apps and sit there and spend hours and hours and hours hoping that the right person's just going to show up in our field. Like, that's a lot of wasted time. Unless you're inspired to do so, I would say back it off. Instead, allow yourself to be inspired by the action you take. How do we know if we're inspired? Does it feel good? Does it light you up? When you think about this action, do you feel expansive? And if not, then you're doing it because you think that you should be, because you need to be taking action rather than trusting and surrendering. Go back to surrender. Go back to the internal work. So only at the end, in the 8th principle, do we get to the principle of action. So action is what sets energy into motion. So both our inner and outer action is what's essential to truly create the life that we desire. So our inner action is intention setting, future mapping, visualizing. Then the last thing is actually taking action, doing the things that we're inspired to do. So full realization of our desires first occurs at a vibrational level. We're building the energy up. We just learned that, right? To make a quantum leap, to make a quantum jump, you have to cultivate vast amounts of energy. We've got to raise our frequency, thoughts, emotions, beliefs, expectations. Like, when we start making those shifts, we start seeing the world differently. That's how we create a new reality, because we are engaging and interfacing with the quantum fabric of reality through our quantum computer that is our physical body, through our thoughts, beliefs, emotions, actions. Those things are what are informing the quantum fabric of reality as to what we want to create. So it seems counterintuitive or productive, but we should really be spending less time doing and more time imagining and feeling the presence of gratitude for our desired result or outcome. We should be spending more time feeling the feelings of having and the feelings of joyful expectancy. That is what's informing and continuing to build up that energy within our being to support that quantum leap from actually occurring. And the reality is we're creating mini leaps, little mini jumps all throughout our life. Every time we are sitting in a play shop or a workshop and we hear something where we go, and something clicks, that's a perception shift. And that is completely shifting our reality. That's a mini quantum leap and jump that we're having and happening right there. It may not have been conscious or deliberate, but we're learning now, how do we actually create these consciousness, like, deliberately? So external action is the physical link that brings the energy of our desire into the unseen, from the unseen, rather, into the 3D world, into the 3D manifested world. So forced or contrived actions are a waste of energy. We want to make sure that we are inspired from a place of desire rather than I want to, I have to, I need to. So those are the principles of creation. Those are that right there. And I actually took most of this from, I don't know if I have her book over here right now. Christy Whitman, who was one of the speakers on the I Am Activation Challenge, her entire body of work is around quantum creation, quantum energy mastery. Quantum creation comes from quantum energy mastery. How do we begin to master our thoughts, our emotions, our beliefs, our perceptions, so that we can create the reality that we truly desire? They are one and the same. So most of these are her principles. And she, again, she's a master. She teaches people within programs on how to actually do this. And we're going to be doing some of this as play work tonight, or home play tonight. And then we're going to be doing more of it tomorrow in our day 2 for the play shop. Yes, I can share the title of the book. Let me see. The Desire Factor by Christy Whitman. The Desire Factor by Christy Whitman. Great book. Highly recommend it. You're welcome, Tia. So what is our home play ritual? Desire, you guys, the first step in all of creation. Without desire, nothing happens. It's the catalyst that awakens our highest qualities and our greatest human potential. So we must tune into our desires. And what better time than right now, the astrological new year. So we are going to be planting the seeds of our desires right now for spring, tomorrow. And with this piece as well. So we're planting the seeds so that we can then, like, once the seed is planted, all the shit that's not aligned and resonant with that, like the weeds, are going to reveal themselves. And we're like, oh, there's a weed. Okay, let's pull that out. There's a weed. Okay, let's pull that out. Let's work on that thought. Let's work on that belief that's not in alignment with the seeds of the desires that I'm planting here. So, like, truly, what creates a quantum leap? What creates a total change, a permanent change in our reality is understanding that we create through energy mastery, and that we need to decide, we go through those steps of quantum creation, desire being the first one. So my invitation to you is to set up sacred space. And if you've done this recently, it's always good to do it again. Like, you're only further solidifying these desires and just deeper, you're planting these seeds deeper in your consciousness, and you're actually informing the quantum fabric of reality as to what it is that you want in your life. Again, we focus so much time and energy on what we don't want. That's what our ego does. The time is to now focus on what we do want. So what do you desire? The invitation is to turn on some music, light some incense, tune into your heart, and to journal on the following questions. What do I desire? What does my soul yearn to experience, create, do, have, and or be in every area of your life? Every area: health, family, relationships, money, spiritual, personal growth, career and soul purpose, fun and recreation. What do you want to experience? My invitation is to create minimum 3 things in each area. And if you want to go even further, you can say, I want to create this in the next 6 months. I want to create this in the next year. I want to create this in the next 5 years. I would recommend tuning into about 3 things in each category, and they can overlap because that's what they do, as to what you really want to create and you want to experience. Tune into your soul's desires. And then this is where it gets really important. We don't just tune into what we want, we tune into why we want it. Why do you want that thing? This is the fuel to the quantum creation fire. Not the what, but the why. Why do you want that? What is it about that desire that inspires you or lights you up? How is this desire calling you forward? And then let's get in even deeper. Do I believe I'm deserving of these desires? Do this for each one. Do I believe I deserve this? Do I believe in my ability to achieve or have my desires, each said desire? And perhaps certain things you're like, oh yeah, divine lovership, that's mine. But then when you think about, creating prosperity and abundance in your life through your career, maybe that doesn't feel true to you. That feels more complicated or hard or difficult. So tuning into, what do I want? Why do I want it? And do I believe that I can create and have and do and be this? The next question is, what do I believe the fulfillment of this desire will allow me to have or be? So it's a little bit similar to the why, but it gets a little bit deeper into the nuances. And the real reason is because we want you to tune into the next question, which is, how will I feel once I have attained this desire? How will I feel? Fulfilled, happy, complete, inspired, joyous, expansive, limitless. How will you feel when you have each of those desires? So this is your home play ritual for tonight. And the reason we're doing this is because, again, tapping into the frequency of desire. That's the first step of all creation. You got to decide, my loves. So my invitation is for you to decide. And then tomorrow, we're going to work with one area of your life. One area that is ready to experience a quantum leap. One area of your being that you are like, yeah, it's time for some change. It's time. And so we're going to work with that one particular area tomorrow. And tomorrow we're going to go even deeper And we're going to actually apply all of this information about quantum entanglement, quantum mechanics, parallel realities, everything is energy, right? All of these concepts, we're going to actually utilize them in conjunction with the studies and understanding of consciousness, which is the idea that all of this is created from the heart. This is created from our heart, from heart-brain coherence. This is created from the field of gratitude and love. This is created, we're going to plant those seeds and we're going to weed that garden. We're going to start this process moving forward so that we can truly create, consciously and deliberately create a quantum leap, or what I like to call a mini miracle in our reality. So we don't just talking about it, we're doing about it, we're being about it. So that is our intention tomorrow. The intention tomorrow is the play shop aspect. And we're going to get into the application of all of this information. So that was a lot. There was a lot being shared there. I finally got my groove coming near the end of it, getting into the quantum side. I mean, I've studied this for so many years, quantum physics and science and mechanics and consciousness and all of this. And I had to like brush up on all of this over the last couple of weeks. And, you know, it's none of it is stuff that I'm sure you haven't already heard or encountered in this spiritual space. But it really is so deeply supportive to understand. And the other thing is too, is like, these are spiritual concepts that we probably already know, but now we have a scientific, empirical evidence proving these spiritual concepts. And so you guys probably, you know, very much like myself, when I heard of the law of attraction and all these spiritual concepts, I was like, all right, whatever, you know, it was woo-woo to me. And my whole entire spiritual journey actually started from a book called Mind to Matter by Dawson Church. I was deeply interested in neurology and the science of just the brain. And here I am picking up this book, and I think it's about brain and neurology. And then I'm just like blown away because it is a whole list of, you know, hundreds of studies in science, some of which we've just gone over, explaining the actual science behind how we create our reality, and mind being consciousness. And so that book spun me on my entire spiritual journey, because all of a sudden I remember vividly driving home from work one day, and I was looking over this overpass, and I all of a sudden saw the quantum fabric of reality. I actually saw this like webbing of light, and I got so emotional. I cried, I was crying. I was just like, because I knew I was forever changed. I knew that my reality was forever changed. And if I could be candid with you, at this particular time in my life, I felt hopeless. I felt like I had the life that I was living was not the life that I would have chosen for myself. And I was like, what the heck happened? Where did I turn left when I was supposed to go right? And I just felt hopeless. I was depressed. I was so upset. Like I was not me. And I felt like I had ruined my life in a way. And I didn't know how to make any change in it. And when I read this book, I cried because I finally knew I had the power. I had the power again to create the life that I desired. It was only a matter of how much I was willing to learn and apply these principles of creation. And it changed my life, and it took me on my journey. And it really took me, for me personally, it really took me having yes, Lena, there's going to be a replay to this. There will be a replay. It really took me understanding the science. It took me having a logical understanding so that I think I could access the creative parts of my more creative brain. It took me having these spiritual concepts anchored and rooted in science, in studies of science, before I was willing to open myself up to the possibilities. And I never looked back. I never looked back. So that's why, you know, since the very, very, very beginning of the work that I've done, and even my own beginning of my journey, it's always been about quantum creation. It's about energy mastery. And so much of what we're doing in the New Earth Ascension Academy and the 6-month Ascension Accelerator is learning the laws of the universe, the laws of reality, and how to implement them into our everyday lived being, not just knowing about them, but being about them. It's truly about learning how to become not only a conscious creator utilizing these laws of existence, but also learning how to become a master of our energy, our thoughts, our emotions, our perceptions, so that we can inform the quantum fabric of reality in a deliberate, conscious way, instead of unconscious, that's the whole process, right? Of awakening. That's the whole process of consciousness, of becoming aware. Awareness is realizing that the beliefs, the thoughts, 70% of our thoughts are programmed, unconscious, negative thoughts, just running on replay. The majority of the things inside of our being that are forming our reality, we didn't choose. We did not consciously choose. And it's creating blocks, energetic blocks, keeping us from the reality that we do really actually truly want. That's okay. We chose those blocks. We chose that programming. We chose that conditioning. We chose our parents. We chose all of it so that we could alchemize it, so that we could overcome it, so that we could turn our pain into our pleasure, our mess into our mission and message. So we chose it all, but we don't want to keep choosing it, right? Now that we're awake, now that we're aware, we don't want to keep choosing it. So how do we stop choosing? How do we rewrite, reprogram our mind, our subconscious, our body? How do we heal? How do we bring ourselves into vibrational resonance with the reality that we desire? So that is what the New Earth Ascension Academy is all about. We are still enrolling, and really the reason, a big piece in part, I wanted to do this masterclass and play shop because I wanted to give so generously to each and every one of you. Because when I heard that there's a woman out there who is practicing energy work and she didn't understand quantum mechanics, I was like, oh, how many other people are out there like that are in the spiritual realm but haven't fully anchored into how it's all working? So I've so deeply studied this when I created the New Earth Ascension Academy, and when I utilize the word quantum, I don't use it frivolously as this like esoteric, like to me it means something, deeply means something. And that was my intention for you. I don't want you to use these words in an esoteric sense. I want them to mean something to you. And so hopefully after today, you have a deeper understanding of quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and how it is informing our reality, and how we choose our reality, how mind actually creates matter, which again, that book, Mind Matter by Dawson Church, it serves to do that. It serves to prove through science how we are creating our lived everyday reality. So my loves, we are all done for the information portion of today. And we will reconvene tomorrow at the same time, and we're going to go through actual practices. We're actually going to be working with the quantum fabric of reality and informing it as to what we want to experience. So my invitation is for you to tune in tonight, whenever you have time, into what you desire to create, have, be, do in all of those different areas of your life. And to tune into the greater reasoning of why, to tune into the feeling and emotion of what it is that you want to experience within that experience. And and to start beginning to tune into what beliefs you have inside of you that are blocking you from creating that, having that, being and doing that. What within you is creating that energetic block, saying you can't have that, even though you're broadcasting it out with your emotions and mind. If there's something inside of you, like an underlying belief in your subconscious programming that's saying, nope, don't do that. I don't want that. Can't have that. Then you'll never create it. So we want to plant the seeds, and we want to weed the garden, and then we want to fertilize the garden. So we're really utilizing this spring equinox motif. And I've actually utilized this for many years now. I literally plant seeds of my desire in my womb and water it with a like in my visualization practices. So we're going to do something similar to that tomorrow. So I would love to hear from you. Do you guys have any additional questions from that information? Are there any ahas that you would love to share? Olivia says, truly loved this. Tia says, thank you for sharing all of this. Arjun says, so powerful. Diana, really grateful that I created all of this. Thank you, love. Yeah. Grateful to have each and every one of you here that are watching live, and for I know quite a few people are going to be watching the replays. So if you're watching the replays and you have questions, do not hesitate to reach out. If you have questions after we get off this call, do not hesitate to reach out. Lucy says, thank you. The principles were especially great to hear. Yeah, I love those principles, which is kind of why, like, I knew the quantum was like the backbone of the intention of this program, of this masterclass, but the principles, like I felt that you may have heard quite a few of the quantum principles. It's just more a reiteration, a reminder, and maybe an elaboration on some of them. But yeah, those principles are really beautiful. They're really supportive. Olivia asks about my take on shadow work and how to integrate it in a more scientific way. I love that. So shadow work is really, it's the weeding of the garden. It's the weeding of the garden. So what within us, so when we say shadow means a lack of light. So shadow is often a traumatic experience from an emotion that we felt or that we experienced as a child, and we didn't know how to process it. So we suppressed it, repressed it, and kind of moved past it. And all of a sudden we get a piece of dark matter, if you will, stuck in our field, in our system that has it, that's actually blocking us from vibrating higher, that's blocking us from receiving that which we desire. So when we think about alchemy, what is soul alchemy? Soul alchemy is the act of transmutation of the dark to the light. So when we go on this journey to weed our garden, we're inviting up anything in our field that is keeping us from that desire. We're inviting up the shadow. We're inviting, and what I love is my shadow work used to be different. My shadow work used to be this like excavation process. Like I got to go in there and I got to find all this stuff and I got to get it out. Let's get it out. Let's heal. Let's come back into complete wholeness. And then I realized that that's not the way that it has to be done. And spirit was like, no, my love, like all you have to do is keep bringing the light into your being, keep bringing the light into your being, keep bringing the light into your being. And as you do, like a shaking of sand, anything that's not in vibration with that light is going to naturally come to the surface. And so when we get triggered by others, when we are in judgment of someone else, when things are happening in our life that we wouldn't prefer to happen, challenges or obstacles, like these are ways in which our shadows are revealing themselves to us. So this is the weeds in the garden. So we, instead of saying, then we want to welcome those weeds, welcome the shadows and say, okay, what part of me is in rejection to that which I want to create in my life? What part of me is in vibrational conflict with what it is I'm trying to manifest and create in my reality? And so when we bring in the light of our awareness, so awareness is the first step to all healing. We must bring awareness. So again, when we start planting those seeds of desire, any of those weeds, the shadow starts to reveal itself by things like, oh, you're not worthy of having that. Oh, you can't create that. You can't. And then you start going deeper. Okay, well, why do I believe that? Why do I believe that I'm not worthy of creating financial abundance in my world? Why? Why do I believe that I'm not worthy of being loved in divine partnership? So when these feelings of unworthiness, or you can't have that, you can't be that, you can't do that, reveal themselves, then we can go even deeper and say, okay, what part of me believes that? Was that mine? Did I choose that? Was it my inner child? Often, yeah. When was the first time I felt unworthy in this lifetime? Was it from this lifetime? Is it from my ancestral lineage? We can start going deeper and asking more questions. And curiosity is how we get to the bottom of it. And then once you have the light of your awareness is actually shown on this experience, then you can accept it. Acceptance is the second stage. Awareness, acceptance, forgiveness. Forgiveness, like totally forgiving ourselves, forgiving the other person, whatever happened in that experience. And that's when we can come into love. And the love frequency, it's the grace frequency that transmutes all. When we realize, oh, okay, everything that I've experienced has been for divine purpose. I chose it. It is here to teach me something profound. And I actually not only I can look at those experiences and say, thank you for the lessons. Thank you for what you've taught me. Thank you for the growth that I've experienced now that I'm on the other side of that. So that essentially is soul alchemy. And when we are in the process of choosing and declaring something that we want that's different for our life, it is inevitable that shadows, the things inside of us that have yet to be processed, loved, healed, and integrated, are going to reveal themselves. So we can anticipate that, which is what we're kind of doing by asking ourselves the question, what part of me believes I can't have that? What part of me is in opposition to this? What part of me is expecting a different outcome? So that is a conscious and deliberate act of shadow work. And also by planting the seeds of desire, you're going to inevitably have aspects of you that are going to reveal itself. And you just stay furiously curious and open and willing. Okay, what's here? Show me what parts of me are not in resonance with this. Show me what parts of me are keeping me and blocking me from manifesting this in my life. I hope that helps, Olivia. And it's scientific in the alchemy aspect, right? Like when we understand alchemy as a science, we're turning lead into gold. That's what our shadow work is. We're turning the shadow into the light. We're turning the traumatic, most painful and challenging experiences that we've endured as a human into our greatest strengths. And not only that, oftentimes it becomes our message, our mission, our why, our medicine for the world. Because we're like, oh, brother, sister, like I see you over there struggling with XYZ. I've done that too. I've been there. I know what it's like. I'm so sorry. I love you. I'm over here now. I've figured this out. Here's how I figured it out. Let me help you. Let me help you. And that's the souls of service. Like that's who we all are here. We're souls of service, here to serve others, knowing that others are not separate from us. We are all one. And so that's what becomes so beautiful. So many, if not, I would dare to say everyone here, probably all of the challenges and hardships that you've chosen are actually so that you could help heal this particular thing in the collective. Because by healing it yourself, you actually hold those codes of healing within your field, and you are not only, even if you don't engage verbally with somebody about said thing, just by being energy field to energy field and interacting with them, you're actually exchanging information with them. And we are all connected to the morphogenic field or the quantum unified field, the fabric of reality. So every time we heal something within ourselves, that information, that healing and how to heal and how to alchemize, that goes into the field and to be downloaded by someone else. So that somebody else can download that information to heal. So most of what we've chosen for ourselves here is really out of selfless service in a lot of ways. We're like, I can go through that. I can deal with that. And we're healing our family lineages forward and back. We're healing our parents, our siblings. We're healing our ancient ancestors. We're healing our genetic lineage. We're through epigenetics. We're time and space is an illusory reality. So we are healing forward, backward. We are changing the past and we are changing the future. Not only are we just changing the future, which we thought time was linear, this, then this, then this, then this, we're actually changing the past too, because it's actually all on top of one another in this like enfolded, encompassed time-space matrix. So yeah, what we do here now today is making drastic and radical impacts and effects on all lives that we've lived or are living, forward and back, because we live lives in the future and backwards. Again, it's not linear. So yeah, love it. Any more questions? Olivia says, it's an amazing thing, really. It can feel really heavy. So once you figure out what part of you is resisting the things you want to manifest, it will become smaller and less significant by accepting that part of you that holds that belief and frequency. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we accept that part of us by loving that part of us, because we can know that that part of us, often like a child, right? Like we as a child didn't know any better. We didn't know what to do or how to process. We didn't adopt that belief. We may think we're unworthy because someone told us, or we may think that, we're not a good singer and we're not good with business. And all these beliefs that we have because our parents or someone told us that one time when we were a kid. And instead, and then now we've internalized those beliefs as our reality. And then as they reveal themselves to us, then we can look at that childlike version of us and say, oh, my love, I'm so sorry that you believed that. I'm so sorry that they told you that that was true. But we know better now, and we know different now, and we're choosing a new reality, and we're no longer choosing that belief because we get to choose, don't we? So yeah, exactly that. Exactly what you shared. Perfectly perfect. Parts of us that are resisting what we want to create in our life will reveal itself. It will. It's part of the process because it's, again, the journey of becoming that we're on. So we actually have the desires are planted into our consciousness, into our being, because it's going to support the things that are not in resonance with that desire to reveal itself. So our desires are inherently healing. They're inherently spiritual journeys of becoming. I love it. Kathy says her heart was vibrating the entire time and her brain is in overload, but in a good way. I love that. It is. It's super helpful for anyone who just wants to learn the basics. And that's really what this and my intention was. Like, we wanted to get the kind of basics of quantum physics and mechanics, like laying the basic foundation. So that's what our heart was here, or that's what our heart was. I read heartfelt, but that's what we were here to do today. Thank you, love. My work is so heartfelt and authentic. Yeah. So, oh, sweet souls, I welcome you all back here tomorrow for day 2 for the play shop portion of this experience. There will be a replay. I will send it out after it downloads, so it will go out in the next hour or so, out to the email. If you are not on the email list and you didn't, there was a reminder an hour before this. If you didn't get that reminder, let me know. I will make sure that you get and receive the replay, and we will come back here tomorrow for the play shop. So we'll actually take some in action and deliberately and consciously create within this beautiful, amazing quantum playground, within this matrix, time-space matrix. That word matrix, we were kind of programmed to think that the word matrix is a negative or bad word because of the Matrix movies themselves. But what is a matrix? It's a container, an energetic container. And this is a time-space matrix. Time is an illusion, and we created a time-space container to experience reality, to experience consciousness. We were part of this Earth experiment's creation, by the way, loves. Many of us were deeply involved in the creation of this experiment and galactic peace and in consciousness. So that's why I consider this a playground. So many people call this Earth prison. Oh no, this is an earthly playground that just so happens to have had some very dense, darker entities that are service to self that have been in charge. And they are gone. They're no longer in charge. We have taken back control of this incredible planet, if you will. And that's also the reason for so many shifts and timeline shifts and reality shifts that are occurring right now, because there may be versions of you that are anchored into timelines that were artificially created timelines. AI inserts, artificially created timelines that you might be anchored into. And so these timelines are collapsing, and new timelines of total galactic ascension, earthly ascension are coming online. And so that's why you may feel unstable all over the place. Like, what is going on? Because you are disconnecting from these timelines and anchoring into totally new ones that are more serving of you. It just might feel and cause you to feel discombobulated. Like, what is happening? I don't feel anchored. I don't feel grounded. Nothing seems to be going right now. Like, the energies are wild. Families are fighting. Partnerships are dissolving. Like, people are moving. There's a lot of that. Has been a lot of it, and there will continue to be more of that. But it is truly for the greatest and highest good of us individually and for all involved. We are no longer in this stage of individual ascension. Like, that to ascend means to leave the planet to leave your body, you must die to ascend, and you do it all on your own. No, instead, we are in this phase of embodied ascension, which I love. Olivia says the root chakra. Yeah, it's about bringing it all the way down into our being. Instead of up and out, we are bringing it down in, anchoring our, often I invite my mind to move into my heart and my heart to move into my womb. And so we are bringing these energies down and to an embodied way of being. We're not trying to transcend up and out. We are trying to ascend down and in. And through the ascension process, we can ascend. And that's where we learned about the 0 point, right? So I forgot to bring that through, but if you look at the infinity sign, the center of that is the 0 point. When you look at a circle, a sphere, the center of that is the 0 point. So when we're tapping into these frequencies, these energies of these high vibrational frequencies, like we are now, we can access the 0 point. We can access God consciousness. We don't have to go up and out and connect beyond ourselves. We can access that within our heart, within the sacred space of our heart that's known as the Atom seed or the high heart. So we can ascend to ascend. We can go within, right? We go within to do the shadow work. Light work, I saw this the other day from a dear sister. She said, light workers are born from shadow work, are born from the shadows, or birthed from the shadows, something like that. You get it. Because it's true. Like, we don't just come out here shining super, super bright. Like we chose some shit to go through. And it's only through that alchemization process do we become the bright, bright, bright magnetic lights that we are now today. And we're only going to get brighter because it's never over. Evolution is a lifelong journey because, again, there's no destination. How boring would it be if we just got to the end of the story? Like, it's a journey. It's the journey that we're here for. So we're going to continuously be expanding, continuously be learning, continuously be calling in and drawing in more light. And even when things feel like they're done, when you're like, oh, I've already done that, I've already taken care of that, it's going to show up again because consciousness is a spiral. So you're just going to come to that same thing, that same lesson at a different perspective. And we want to, because we want to see, okay, well, I saw how I handled it at that level of consciousness. Let's see how I handle this experience at this level of consciousness. Am I going to get as thrown off or as absorbed or as, by that same thing? Or am I going to quickly be able to come back into my alignment? Am I going to be able to quickly come back and am I going to get, the word and the visual I keep seeing is like a riptide. Am I going to get caught up in the riptide of this experience, or am I going to be able to get my ground and release and surrender and allow myself to be drawn into the riptide and then up and out of the riptide? So quite a few people have joined in the last, 10, 15 minutes. So sweet souls, if you have joined us late, we are about to wrap up and the replay is going to be sent out here in a short moment. So I pray that you have some time to catch the replay, which will be just as powerful and potent. Yeah. It's shared in the chat that someone's feeling mostly in the shadow, mostly in the darkness, mostly unstable right now, which brings up a lot of feelings of guilt for not holding the lighter frequency. I get that deeply. I get that, right? Because this is also in alignment with our desire sometimes to spiritually bypass. It's like, I don't want to feel the negative things. I don't want to feel the negative things. But when we recognize that everything, the law of rhythm, everything is like a wave, it ebbs and flows and it comes in and out. There's so much value in the shadow. There's so much value in the density and darkness. That's where the alchemization occurs. So instead of being in rejection of the shadow stage, instead of being in rejection of the unstableness of that you're feeling, perhaps can you say, oh, okay, like this is temporary. This is temporary and it's driving me even greater, even further, and even closer to the reality that I really want. What is this teaching me? What is coming up for me right now? What is this offering me right now? So instead of being in a rejection of the experience, Instead, know, okay, this is temporary and this is teaching me something. This is for purpose. This is for reason. And I'm going to, just like the waves of an ocean, just like the beating of a heart, I'm going to come back into my expansive moment. So what you're experiencing is temporary, and so many people are experiencing that right now. So many people are experiencing the heaviness of reality. So if anything, like there's something about us knowing that we're not alone. Like even though you may feel sometimes that you're alone because no one else around you maybe can relate, I deeply know that hundreds within this community here that are going to be watching this replay can deeply relate, because energies are wild. I told you, my energy has been funky, so funky, so funky. And I've been in a little bit of judgment around that myself. And choosing habits that are not of my greatest and highest good, eating things that I don't normally eat because it's soothing. Look, I'm not perfect. None of us are. And we're all, and everything that we experience is here to teach us something greater and more about ourselves. So even my eating habits lately, which haven't been very, very good lately, which have been causing me to feel really lethargic and tired. I'm like, okay, well, let's go into this deeper. Why is food so comforting to me? Why am I gravitating towards food and habits that I know are temporarily pleasurable for that temporary hit of dopamine, but later on down the road, I have to deal with the repercussions of it. And so that's, again, like even when we're choosing what we might call self-sabotaging habits, really self-sabotage is self-protection. Self-protection. So everything that we experience, even when it feels heavy and dense and hard and like a struggle, it's there to serve us. And we can choose, perception is reality. We can choose to see this as, oh, I don't want to be dealing with this. This is frustrating. This is so annoying. I wish things were easier and lighter. Or we can say, I don't necessarily want to be experiencing this, but I know it's for divine purpose. So I'm willing to accept it and to go into it even greater, even more, knowing that it's temporary and it's going to benefit me in the long run, because I'm only weeding that garden and getting rid of the shadow so that your energy field is clean. So that when you're calling in what you want to create, you actually have an energy field that allows you to receive it. That's what alchemy is. We're transmuting the shadows in our field into light so that we become an energetic vibrational match for what we're calling in. So you just got some energetic cleanup happening for you right now, Olivia. Just a little bit of energetic cleanup, and it's temporary. It's so deeply temporary. And you're not alone. It's wild. Energies are wild right now. Everyone's experiencing some version of the shadow, of the density right now, of these wild, chaotic energies. So any more questions, sweet, sweet souls? I deeply pray that this was beneficial for you. And I'm incredibly honored that you chose to come and spend your time with me here this afternoon, night, morning, whatever it is for you, and whatever beautiful part of the world you're in. And yeah, I look forward to coming back here tomorrow. So sweet souls, there's no more questions. If you do have something that comes up between now and tomorrow, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I am available via email and all social media platforms. So do not see, we always focus on what we don't want to happen. I was gonna say, do not forget. Instead, please remember, right? This is the conscious language. Please remember to tune into your home play ritual, to tune into your soul's desires, what your soul yearns to create, have, do, be, and the other additional questions. And I will email all of that out as soon as we wrap up here. So you're welcome, Olivia. Thank you, love. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Tej, Lucy. So good to feel you, sweet soul. Tia, Larry, I saw you pop in there at the end. The replay will be going out here shortly. Kathleen, I love you deeply, deeply, deeply. So, all right, loves. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your day. And I look forward to seeing you here same time as today, tomorrow. All right, I love you guys. Bye.